So when you watch my smile, don't think
put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. Today is Monday. It's the 9th day of June 2025 and we're coming to you live from the Port Mall here in Scarborough, Tobago. I am Adana Kumbi. This is the day that the Lord has made and we will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning, and my name is AMPLIA Holder, and another work week, Adana, another opportunity to do your best, another opportunity to move your life forward, another opportunity to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago.
That's right, and it's always a privilege and an honor, to be here in this capacity, having conversations that people in and around Tobago, anybody who has interest in Tobago would be a part of the conversation, things that impact our lives, the way we live, the way we socialize, the way we integrate with each other. It really is a privilege and an honor to be here. And of course, our viewers, you all are champion. We really appreciate all of our viewers. You are the reason why we are number one, and we continue to show appreciation to you. We're always so happy when you tune in to hear the conversations that we have and to be a part of it when you log on to our Facebook live stream or our YouTube channel and you leave your comments there. Coming out of the weekend, Akinlabi, what was your weekend like?
Well, the weekend was pretty quiet, I didn't do much. I met up with a couple of friends, spent some time with them, catch up, that kind of thing. So it was a really quiet weekend, just for rest and recuperation. But hopefully in the weekends to come, a bit of action.
I hope so, because I know you have some projects you're working on, and we the viewers are waiting to see what you are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into our conversations this morning, we head on over to the news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Adana. Here is your news in 90 seconds on Monday, June 9th, 2025. Public Utilities Minister Barry Paradat has accused the PNM of abusing the CPEP program for political gain, awarding 360 contracts without cabinet approval ahead of the 2025 general election. He claims these awards worth hundreds of millions were linked to party loyalty and used for political patronage. Paradat also alleges that 3.5 million payout to a relative of a former PNM minister and promised more revelations during the upcoming budget mid-year review. Up next, amid rising tensions between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has called for calm, urging both nations to resolve issues peacefully and within international law. The dispute escalated after Venezuela accused a Trinidadian of links to terrorism, prompting Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Camila Persaud Bissessa to warn that any illegal Venezuelan entry could face deadly force. Gonsalves warned against inflammatory rhetoric and foreign interference, stressing regional unity and diplomacy. Security forces in Trinidad and Tobago remain on alert as officials seek clarity through continued communication and dialogue. And finally, with growing controversy, President Donald Trump's latest travel ban has ignited debate over immigration policy and national security security. Set to take effect today, the ban restricts travel to U.S. from 12 predominantly African and Middle Eastern countries while tightening visa controls for 8 others. It targets applicants without valid visas and cites concerns over terrorism, visa overstays, and poor vetting systems. Critics argue the policy promotes division rather than safety. While previously issued visas remain valid, many immigrants and aid groups have condemned the move as unjust and harmful to vulnerable communities. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Bianna, for your news there in 90 seconds. And there are so many things happening locally, regionally, and internationally.
Yes.
Things that we all need to be paying attention to. And I think just last week on this program, I kind of urge our viewers to ensure that they understand what is happening. I mean, things that might be happening on an international stage might also be affecting us and impacting us right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Sometimes we think, oh, that's in the US, that's in Canada, that's wherever that is happening. But these things trickle down primarily because we have international relationships, and so we have to be very, very aware as to what is happening. And I want to talk a little bit about the situation with Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. So we all have opinions where that is concerned, and we've heard the responses and the comments, and we saw what's happening on Facebook with people putting in their own opinions.
Yes.
I don't know if it is a little bizarre, or if it is that we're taking a stand in terms of what is happening, or what was suggested that an illegal entrance or a criminal activity or connection to terrorism entering Venezuela, and what should be our approach in terms of how do we deal or mitigate a situation of that nature.
Yes.
And so of course people have concerns in terms of how our Prime Minister responded to it, and then of course the President of Venezuela responding as well, and the back and forth that is happening there. What are you guys thinking in terms of that whole scenario?
I would really wish that we calm our heads, come forth in this entire issue. And that I know that the government would have felt a bit perhaps insulted with some of the assertions of the President and the Vice President of Venezuela. And as such, they may have hit back with some, I don't want to say aggressive, but strong language themselves. But I hope that after those initial bouts, calmer heads could prevail, and that they could really come to the table and discuss this thing in the manner that they should have engaged in it in the first place.
And you see, of course, the Honorable Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, of course, calling for, us to resolve and to do it in a calm way, as you rightfully said. Akinlabi is a guy that I really, really like. I follow him, and I really, really like his wisdom and the knowledge that he applies to situation. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope that, of course, the situations can be resolved in the most amicable way possible, in a way that will benefit the region at large, of course, because we don't want relationships to be fragile and volatile in these times. We want to ensure that we could strengthen our relationships as well. So, let's hope for the best. All right, Bianna, thank you so much for being with us this morning and bringing the news in 90 seconds. We do hope that you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Same to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the morning where we celebrate with those who are celebrating. It's time for our birthday shout-outs. And of course, you do know that we here at Tobago Updates Television, we love a good celebration. And so this morning we join in with the beautiful, the lovely young lady you are seeing on your screen, Kelisha Douglas. Kelisha Douglas is celebrating a birthday, and we say happy birthday to you, Kelisha. We pray God's blessings upon your life, and we do hope that you have an amazing birthday today.
We continue along and we say happy birthday to Mr. Gavin Sparrow Richards. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Richards. We know today is a special day and you're going to have something special planned. And we wish you all God's richest blessings. And we pray that He continues to bless you throughout this year and the remainder of your life.
That's right. And we also say happy birthday to Lonnie. Lonnie Joseph is celebrating a birthday today. And we say happy birthday to you, Lonnie. We pray God's blessings upon your life. And we do hope that you have an amazing birthday and a beautiful season, the season that you're entering into. We pray that it is lovely for you. So happy birthday as well.
And we say happy birthday to Miss Sparkle Innes. Miss Sparkle Innes looking lovely as ever. We know today's a special day, and we wish you God's richest blessings. We know family and friends are going out tonight and you're going to have a grand time, and we pray that you stay safe. We pray that God's richest blessings over your life and that everything you put your hands to in this coming year is a great success.
That's right. And we also say happy birthday to Mr. Glenville Wilson. Glenville Wilson, we say happy birthday to you. We pray God's blessings upon your life. And as you enter this new chapter, we do hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful birthday as well. So happy birthday to you. Next, we have Mr. Toddy Noon. Toddy. We say happy birthday to you. We do know for sure that today you are going to have an amazing day. I know you've been preparing for this birthday, and I know that you're stepping out in fine style as a gentleman that you are. And so we pray God's blessings upon your life, and we say happy birthday to you, Todd.
Happy birthday greeting goes out to Miss Talia Clark. Happy birthday to you, Miss Clark. God's richest blessings to you on your special day. And we hope that you spend this with family, friends. And we know that you're going to be showered with many gifts today. But be thankful for the greatest gift, and that is life. Happy birthday to you, Miss Clark.
Drum roll. Am I being a little bit biased? Perhaps I am.
That's
This is
fine.
a belated birthday greeting. She celebrated her birthday yesterday, Aklima Kumbi. This is my little sister. Yes, happy belated birthday to you, my darling. We pray God's blessings upon your life. And as you enter this new chapter, this new phase, and as you have reached this milestone, we pray God's blessings upon your life. And we pray for clarity. We pray that you walk in purpose. And we pray that your heart's desires are granted according to God's wishes for you. So happy birthday to you, my darling sister.
And finally, we say happy birthday to Miss Makaya Bacchus. Yes, happy birthday to you, Miss Bacchus. God's richest blessings on your special day. We know you're going to celebrate it and celebrate it in style. But while you're celebrating in style, give God thanks for sustaining you to bring you thus far, and He will take you much further into the future. Happy birthday to you.
That's right. Happy birthday to you, Makaya. God's blessings upon your life. And even though we don't have your photograph and you're celebrating today, we join in the celebration with you and we remind you to put God first, because He's the sole reason why there's even anything for you to celebrate.
Indeed.
So it's Monday morning. You might be wondering what's in my cup. What's in my cup is sponsored by LCJ Delights. And this morning I'm drinking some good old orange peel tea. Yes, you can get your teas from LCJ Delights. They are located at the Signal Hill Micro Enterprise Complex there in Signal Hill. You can get your teas, you can get your flour to make your waffles and your pancakes, and even a premium blend of mixed nuts. So check them out to get all that's good for your breakfast. Akilabi, who are we having conversations with this morning in studio?
So this morning we're going to have in Councillor Petal-Ann Roberts, who is the Secretary for Finance, Trade and the Economy. And we're going to have a very long, protracted conversation with her discussing the critical financial matters impacting Tobago. So the Secretary will be our only host in this morning, and we're going to have a very extended conversation with her. We know that there has been, over the past few years, finances within Trinidad and Tobago has been a very strong concern of the citizenry. And right here in Tobago, concerning the THA and balancing the books.
That's right. So we are, looking forward to having that conversation. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation. You can comment on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube channel. We want to hear what you want to know. We want to hear your part of the conversation to join in. And of course, those of you who are joining us on AMPLIA 102 or Floor 121 or 130, we welcome you this morning. And we ask you to help us to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Do you think you know Premier League or Champions League football? What about international cricket or the IPL and CPL? How about NBA basketball? Well, now you can put your skills to work to earn some extra cash by betting on the games with TT Bet Arena. Simply go to our website, choose a sport you want to bet on, find the games and place your bets. And with your computer or mobile device, you can bet from anywhere. Just go to ttbetarena.com, sign up for a free account, make a deposit, and start betting. It's that simple. You can even qualify for our $2,000 sign-up bonus. We also have horse racing, plus live casino games where you can bet using TT dollars. And check our new Tobago location at 7B Milford Road, Crown Point. For more info, call or WhatsApp 494-0634. TT Bet Arena, the #1 sports betting company in Trinidad and Tobago.
Quartz is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Quartz Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
When the game is on, you don't want to miss the best moments. With AMPLIA TV, you can enjoy our ultimate sports package and watch your favorite games on the go. Stay connected and informed with sports news, scores, and stats with AMPLIA's fastest internet speeds. Up to 1 gigabyte fiber internet, you can stream riveting football action, cricket, NBA games, and much more. With AMPLIA, it's game on. Visit amplia.co.tt or call 800-4663. AMPLIA. Do more, live more.
Hair goals, we've got 'em. At S&R Hair Fantasy, we provide a wide variety of quality hair, the latest hair accessories, adult toys, skin lightening products, female underwear, and much more under one roof. Check us out on Shelbourne Street in Plymouth or call us at 317-0808. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. S&R Hair Fantasy for queens who know exactly what they want.
With Flow Business's new smart solutions powered by super fast, reliable broadband, you'll feel like there are more versions of you working for you. From website design, development, and digital marketing to promote your business, 24/7 business class support to cloud solutions, security, and more. Multiply your growth today.
Dispute with a registered investment service provider of the TTSEC? Or maybe you're the victim of an investment scam. You can lodge a complaint or submit an anonymous tip to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Download our Investor Protection app or go to ttsec.org.tt to access our complaint form or submit an anonymous tip. Write a clear summary of your complaint. Submit copies of supporting documents along with the originals for verification. Provide a copy of the feedback received from the entity regarding your complaint. All investor complaints or scam reports submitted by the public are acknowledged and reviewed by the TTSEC. Investigations are pursued based on the outcome of the review. Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting the interests of investors and the public. You invest, we protect. Everyone benefits.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We begin conversations this morning by speaking with Councillor Petal-Ann Roberts, who is the Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy. And we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation this morning about money. Of course, we need to know about processes. We need to know about the conversations. We need to know about the plans, the projects, and the projections. And of course, we want you to be a part of the conversation. So please ensure you leave your comments on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube channel. This morning we welcome in our studio Councillor Petal-Ann Roberts. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and thank you for having me, and good morning to Tobago.
Of course, a pleasure having you in our studio this morning to talk about the things that we really want to have conversations about. You know, when we're talking about financing and budgeting and all these things, everybody wants to be a part of the conversation and they want to know what is happening, why our projects undone, why we don't have enough money, where we're getting money from. So this is a perfect opportunity to kind of explain to our people how things are done in terms of budgetary allocation and stuff like that. But I do know that you had a recent meeting. I mean, the new government has been formed, and of course, it's obvious that you will meet, or your secretaries will meet with the ministers to have conversations, to form relationships as we move forward. Could you give us a little bit of insight in terms of the meeting you had with the Minister of Finance?
Yes, so every year we have these meetings with the Ministry of Finance, particularly at the mid-year review and before the new fiscal year starts, because, you know, the budget for the government is somewhere in September, October. So we basically have two meetings. Now, this year's meeting is because we have a new government with new priorities, and it's at the mid-year review. Tobago has been allocated 4.35% of the budget. On the recurrent expenditure, we got 2.376 billion. On the development program, 205 million. And on the European CPEP, we have 18 million for Europe and 9.2 for CPEP. So obviously, we go back to the drawing board, go back to the government after we look at how much we have spent so far. Basically, on the development program, which is traditionally underfunded, and even this year it has been more so than ever before because of where Tobago is in terms of its development. So we'd go back to the government and say at the mid-year what we really need, and the conversation was, there was mutual respect. There was that sense of coordination and commitment to meeting these needs that Tobago have. The minister in his, preliminary conversation started with a caveat of the government's position. It is not very good. I don't want to get into too much details. I think the minister's responsibility to bring that to the country, but basically gave a general overview of where we are at as a government. And it is in that context where I had to pull back the request. Because really and truly, what we were requesting is the difference between 4.35% and the minimum that we are asking for now going forward of 5.1%. And that would bring us to about $448 million. And seeing that it gave that precursor to where our fiscal position is, could ask for 445. But we did make a request, and they did say they will try their best to accede to that request to see how best we can, just close that funding gap for this fiscal year. So far, we have transferred monies from recurrent to DP in the amount of $120 million. As I said, the recurrent expenses, the development program is grossly underfunded. So every year we make those shifts. So we have 44 priority projects, 38 development projects, and we have so far shifted $120 million from recurrent to development program. The conversation with the minister also included the budget for 2026. We intend to ask a minimum, as I said, of 5.1%, which represents Tobago's population share of the national population. So I told the minister, those are my expectations for Tobago. Give every Tobagonian their dollar. The conversation also included the IFMIS project. There is a project since maybe about 2005, where the government did this integrated financial management information system is really to digitize and modernize the entire accounting and budgetary process. The former administration actually spent about $64 million. They took a loan from the IDB to do this project, and we have not gone anywhere. So I've asked the minister, and I've asked the same thing of the former Minister of Finance, to let Tobago lead this project, because Tobagonians are the only one that understand the budgeting process, the way in which we collect our revenues. Our revenues are actually offset against the parliamentary appropriation. And that really means if the government at the budget said, I'm going to give Tobago $100, and we collect $20, the government is only going to receipt to us $80. And that is really it. So we have asked the government to lead that project. Just give us the technical support and we will lead it on our end, because we had challenges where the Trinidadians came and they tried to lead this. No offense to Trinidadians, but we understand our processes more than anyone else. So we've asked the leader and he agreed. We spoke about the bond. I don't know if the minister had any background information on the bond that was issued in 2021 that is due as a bullet payment of $165 million in 2027. I asked the former Minister of Finance on 2 occasions to give us some funds to put into a sinking fund. So in one go, we wouldn't have to find all that money. There would be some monies in a fund, and we can utilize those and then find the difference. And he said he would look at it. He didn't have all the details of the bond, but he will go back to his technical team and look at the bond and see how well we can manage the repayment to the investors. Another item that was discussed was the property tax and the TTRE, and they made that announcement about that. Obviously, in our draft estimates of expenditure and revenues, we'll have to consider property tax calculations and how much we project to collect. So he did indicate that the current methodology of property tax collections, that would be no more. They are currently looking at a new methodology for collection of property tax. So therefore, we'll have to go back to the drawing board for our revenues, because property tax took up a substantial amount, especially in Tobago, for the last year or two.
Okay.
Another item that we discussed was our ability to borrow. I had meetings with the Minister of Planning as well, and I think that's the direction the country wants to go. So they did indicate that they will allow us and give us those approvals once we come to the table, and it does not affect the debt to GDP ratio too much. So yes, they have agreed to look at any proposals that we have for borrowing, because Section 51 of the Act says that we must seek the approval of the Minister of Finance in order for the THA to borrow.
As you give us all the information there in terms of the conversation that you had with the minister, and I know traditionally when administrations change and the THA has to have the conversations, it starts off favorable. But in your conversation, in your relation to him, how confident do you feel in terms of, I feel as if we might get through, we might break some ground here, and that we might actually partner on some of the projects, even if we don't get 100% of what the conversation was about? How confident do you feel that this relationship might reap some type of reward that we have not had in the past administration?
Adana, I feel more confident than ever before. I've not only met in these conversations as Secretary of Finance, but as a technocrat. I've been in the room with over London when he was Chief Secretary, the former Secretary of Finance, Joel Jack. And this is this meeting, to me, the mutual respect and the attitude to seek Tobago's interest, I felt that more than ever before. I am hopeful that it would materialize into something positive for Tobago. The minister said he did get instructions from the Prime Minister to ensure that Tobago's need helmet and hear us out, hear what our needs are. And one of the critical matters I brought to his attention is the overdraft facility that we have to incur because we get these releases so late. And that overdraft bridges the funding gap for Tobago. And he did agree with me that a country should not be run on 2 overdrafts, because in Trinidad they run on an overdraft as well. Right. So it makes no economic sense for Trinidad to be running on an overdraft and Tobago running on an overdraft at the same time, because the cost of our overdraft is extremely high as it is uncollateralized. It's the largest, probably uncollateralized overdraft in the Caribbean. And therefore the cost to us is too exorbitant, and this is an off-budget expenditure. The bank takes their overdraft interest. It's not appropriated. It is not taken care of by the releases from central government. It actually reduces the liquidity on the bank account. So it means that when I think I have $100, I really have 50 to spend because of the overdraft interest that we have. So I explained to him the position right now in terms of liquidity, and going forward the impact that will have on our ability to run Tobago efficiently, not having the requisite resources. On paper, our position is saying one thing, But when we look into a bank account, it's saying another.
So is it the issue with the overdraft is that the releases from the central government usually come too late?
Yes. So the access, the Tobago House of Assembly access, we must receive our releases quarterly or block. That means on a whole in advance.
Yes.
So it means that at the end of this month, we should have by, I would say June 30th or July 1st, we should have the releases for July. That rarely happens. We get them 2 months, 1 month. So in July, we'll get for 2 months, and in September, I will get September's releases. And really and truly, we can't plan, we can't pay. That's why the effect that you're seeing now, you know, we get the blame as an but how we receive money. If Tobago updates receive monies late from your customers, your clients who have to pay you, it means that you may get paid late, right? So it affects the way in which we do business, right? So I've explained that, and he agreed, and he said he will try his very best. But you know that also is hinged on how the government gets its revenues. So, but really and truly, he said he wants to look at the cost of this borrowing, of this overdraft, on both of on both ends, and try to alleviate that problem.
So I don't know if you could explain to us in terms of what really is the source of the problem and why the finances arrived to Tobago so late.
Well, as I said, I think the government doesn't get the resources as they would like. It's based on both the oil revenues and other revenues collected by the government, and actually we actually run deficits, budget deficits. That's how we run the country. It's the expenditure exceeds the revenues that the government over the years, what the government intends to collect. So I think that is one of the things. But if the Act says that we should receive the monies in a particular way, I think that we should abide by the law, and the Tobago bills, the self-government bill, that did have it actually copied and pasted that same thing in there. And even if you have a bill with that clause, that section, and they're breaking the law, it means that you could break all the sections of the law. So we need something that is more constitutionally sound, right, to protect Tobago's interests.
And you know, when you're talking about all those elements, they impact the way you prepare a budget. They impact the items on the budget and how you expect your revenue to come in terms of in time, as you mentioned before, on block and stuff like that. Talk us through now. We know that we're getting ready for budgets, right? So talk us through now where we are, the actual process. How do we get to a budget, and how do we get to a presentation? This is what we are planning, and this is what we are presenting in terms of a request for our budgets.
We basically do what we call baseline budget, where the current year is the baseline, and thus we add or we increase, we fluctuate the numbers based on inflation, the new policies, contractual obligations. So basically that's how we do our budget. And we send out what we call a call circular to the divisions, which outlines this is really the guide for the budget process. One of the things I've done as well is a budget consultation. We did that in last month, and we have an online platform for persons to go online who we weren't able to meet, because it was really difficult to meet with all the stakeholders. I did have some stakeholders that I could not meet because I had some personal matters that I had to attend to that took up that time. But we met with the agriculture sector, all the stakeholders in the agriculture sector, tourism, banking, and then we had our internal stakeholder consultations with our state companies. We have about 9 special purpose companies, and we met with them as well to advance the policy agenda and some of the challenges that they face in executing their mandates, right? So I am indicating to the public that the online portal is still. You can go to the Division of Finance Facebook page. You could go to the THA website, and you would see I sent it to your Mr. Wood also, so he can this morning, so that persons can see how they can go on and give their feedback, give their recommendations to us for the budget this year. Also, the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, which is CARTAC, they came to Tobago. Actually, we requested technical assistance from them, and this came out of the IMF meetings. We have IMF meetings every year where we attend, and they ask us what are some of the things that we can offer you in terms of technical assistance. So they are doing a reform of the budgetary process, and I've taken up one of the recommendations of the reform, and one of the recommendations is to the budget presentation. I'm going to do it a little different this year. Mm-hmm. So usually the budget process, so the presentation is about 3 to 3.5 hours long. This year may be a 1.5 to 2 hours long, because they have indicated that we have such a complex process, and they think that it's back to front. So we outlined all our priorities in detail in June, and in October, September, that is where we just reprioritize. So I'm doing it a little differently. This budget would outline the broad areas of focus for the government for Tobago. And in September, October, we will elaborate further on that, because we now know what the allocations are. Okay. So I've taken the recommendations of CATAC. They gave about 14 areas where they thought that Tobago needs to improve its efficiency in the budgetary process. One of the things they said, we have 400 development program items, line items. Some of them are of a recurrent nature. Some of them are very small capital. Right. And it really undermines what the development and the capital expenditure should look like, your budget should look like. Right. So, reform takes some time. It's a long process, but I've started to look at the recommendations of CATAC and implement them as we go along. So the first one would be to look at the way in which I present the budget this year. Very broad, focused areas that we would like to see THA implement, and then at the end, when we go back to when the government presents its budget, then we will elaborate on what these focal areas are.
In terms of the 14 recommendations, are you able to tell us some of the other areas that they itemized?
Yes. Well, I could try to surmise them for you briefly. As I said, we have too many development program expenditure items. They're saying that the recurrent and your DP is not aligned. They are not in sync. You're not seeing a relationship and interconnectivity between your DP and your recurrent. They thought that the process of applying for DP releases is too complex. It's not simplified for the staff. They found that the planning department had more staff than the budget department, and that said something. There were so many other things. There are some other little things that they would have said, because they look at the Caribbean and other jurisdictions that are like Tobago, and they have done this work throughout the Caribbean. So they're saying these are some of the things that worked, these are some of the things that can work for you, and we intend to see you try to implement some of the recommendations. So I've looked at them, and that is the direction in which we are going to improve the efficiency of the budgetary process, budget planning process.
And that is what we want: efficiency, efficiency, and that's something that we've been clamoring for a very, very long time. And I must applaud you in terms of taking that approach, in terms of asking for that type of assistance to go through the processes to ensure it is simplified. I like the fact that you use the word "it's not simple enough for the staff to engage in," because sometimes things really do take a long time.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Morning. She's the Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy, and we're going through the money stuff, the things you want to be a part of. Remember, you can leave your comments on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube channel. Be a part of the conversation this morning. We have to go for a short break, but we will come back with this conversation. So in the meantime, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
your chance to lock in the brunch experience of the summer. Sun Up.
Real bad girl get nasty.
The Brunch Inclusive Edition, the ultimate party in the East, where vibrant flavors, refreshing cocktails, and electrifying vibes collide. It's happening on Saturday, July 5th from 3 p.m. at Deltec Compound, Argyle. Bring your coolers, bring your crew, and brunch, sip, and vibe in style. This is the flavorful escape you've been waiting for. Grab your tickets now at Barcode, Pablo Supermarket, Lost Restaurant and Lounge, Deltec Compound, and committee members. Sun Up. It's more than a brunch. It's an experience.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning with Councillor Petal-Ann Roberts as we talk about budget, the budgetary process. How do we do things so in terms of financing for projects to be undertaken here on the island of Tobago? Not just that, but your salaries, my salary too. So let's have the conversation and be a part. We want to hear what you have to say. Before we went to the break, Councillor, we were talking budgetary process. We were talking about the fact that you had that kind of conversation in terms of the recommendations that were made and the direction you're going to go now. So I want to get a little bit more into it in terms of how is the budget going to roll out now as a result of the recommendations? What are the things you are putting in place, and some of the terms that we might not know and might not be aware of that we can be advised on?
Right. So, before the break, we spoke about some of the recommendations of CARTAC, and one of them I forgot to include was this manual system that we currently utilize in the THA. CARTAC did indicate that complicates everything. It's very inefficient. The manual system makes it very difficult to do this budget process. They also talk about the complexity of the DP proposal, the development program proposals. They found them not to be very straightforward, and especially you would see that manifested in the implementation of these proposals. Another one...
Before you move on, Secretary, I want to ask, does these complexities, particularly in the DP and those kind of things, does it impact the execution of projects? Does it?
Most definitely, because when you're doing your project profile, if that is not straight, clear, I want to use the word simplified, obviously when you're implementing, you will have these challenges. So I think that is one thing. So actually what they have done for us, they have looked at our forms, our how we structure the way in which we want to present our projects, and they gave us templates to work with as well. They gave us templates for requests for releases. They found most of our forms to be very complex. So they have recommended that you utilize these forms that work in other jurisdictions. They look at also the alignment of the priorities into the budget process and that kind of thing. So the technical assistance is really, really good, and I intend to continue that conversation. Actually, they have asked me for a follow-up meeting because they want to look at the accounting stream now. And I know what the problem is. We are manual, right? We have been manual for some time. The globe is going actually, digitization is not a luxury anymore. For competitiveness, for efficiencies, everybody is using some digital platform, and we are still writing up vote books, writing up schedules, and in some cases we sign in checks manually, right? So they are looking at some of these strategies that we are using, methodologies, and saying, listen, it is time to move away from these ways and go where the world is going.
And in terms of to make that transformation, is there some sort of legal issue, or can we make that?
No, we could make that. We can make those. No, so most of the recommendations are easy to implement.
Okay.
It just takes a lot of time. Change.
Yes.
Yeah, change always requires us looking at this thing, mapping what the current process is, and then mapping what the recommended process is, and just allowing persons to understand. So we have also had CARTAC training the staff. So apart from this report that I had, which is 120 something pages, staff have been trained as well. So they are actually coming back to look at the accounting and do the same thing. Give us a report, train the staff. So these recommendations are my Bible right now, especially as I'm preparing Budget 2026. Apart from this, I'm looking at, we have a strategic development planning pathway, a framework that we are working for Tobago for the next 20 years, which we have truncated into 5-year periods. That is also a document that we're using to guide the budget for 2026, because the pathway is from 2025 to 2045, right? So that is another document that we are using to align with the budget process. And finally, strategic planning, strategic selectivity, which I used in the previous budget. I actually did the revised budget, or the realigned budget, in October last year. I was the one that read it, because I was actually appointed on June 28th when they had the budget debate. That was the day I sat in the House and sat as a member of the THA. And so I actually did the revised budget. So this year we are going to use strategic selectivity again, where we would prioritize our development priorities in accordance with different things: feasibility, cost, risk, and see how best we can use these resources to impact all the people across Tobago.
Talking about preparing for budgets, understanding the processes, knowing the shortfalls, knowing the areas that you have to tighten up. And, I must commend again your office in terms of reaching out for that type of help. I know you mentioned that before they will give you assistance in terms of your budgetary stuff, but the technical part in terms of the processes, how do you ensure that the efficiency, things line up? You use as little time as possible to get the same results. Maximum impact is what we kind of really, really want, especially for a small island like Tobago, where sometimes it feels as if the island is too small to be waiting 2 weeks for one document.
Yes,
it's too small to be waiting so long for things to happen on the island. So I must commend that. And of course, we will be looking on to see how the implementation of these recommendations improve the wait time. Because at the end of the day, what your clients want is speed.
Yes.
They want to come into an office.
Yes.
Correct. They want to come in and they want to be able to say, this has been resolved within the same time I was in the office. I don't have to go and come. And I don't have to sit and wait. So we welcome, of course, the implementation of the recommendations made, and we're looking to see how it kind of it is implemented and how it impacts the actual operations. So we're talking about budget. Budget's supposed to be coming up sometime, and so we're waiting to know when is budget day.
Right. So budget day is the 23rd of June at 10 a.m. And as I did indicate, it will be an abridged version because of the way in which, as I said, we took the recommendation of CARTAC on how we should really frame the budget, and then in October, we elaborate on our priorities and the areas that we want to focus on. This year, though, there are some focal points some focal areas that I want the public to know. Tourism is one, agriculture, human capital development. So not only that we're going to ask CARTAC and the IDB for technical assistance for us, I will be making an intentional and deliberate investment in training entrepreneurs. We have been giving entrepreneurs grants and loans, and we are not seeing the sustainability of businesses and businesses' life not being extended, because it's not only money, it's about the know-how. I think people generally want to know, so I will make an intentional investment in people and training. Also in the public service, it is this administration's intention to also ramp up training for the public officers. we have already started a coaching program where we have asked public servants who have worked for the last 20, 30 years to come back and be coaches and mentors for our public officers. Look at the way in which we do things and try to strengthen the way in which we do it, because there are a lot of errors and some people just don't know, and efficiency, doing things a little faster. So we intend to see improvements in the way in which we do things, both speed and efficiency, and also in terms of the quality of the public service delivery, right? So we intend to see that. Another focal area for the budget is the SME sector. That is the lifeblood of our economy. So I intend to, through the Tobago Development Fund, make an investment, financing, technical support. I've already spoken to so many different sectors. I spoke to the Banking Association of Trinidad and Tobago to look at, they did a program sometime in 2022, 2023 to bring it back again, where they have a 6-month training program for entrepreneurs. I've spoken to ICAT, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Trinidad and Tobago. I've spoken to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission to come and just talk to persons about investments and what is the right investment, and so much education, edification, sensitization for the people of Tobago. And that is the direction in which we are going. Digitization is another focal area, especially for the core responsibilities of the government. We intend to digitize a lot of the way in which we do things, right? So those are the focal areas for Budget 2026: tourism, agriculture and food security, digitization, human capital development, and the SME sector, to make that investment and to pay particular attention to this sector, not only where the investment is financial, but that technical assistance, that hand-holding, that looking at the way in which they run business and do business and manage their business, and give them that support.
Secretary, I wanted to ask you something. I know you mentioned SME. I don't know if you could go into this, but is the division looking at, we know that Tobago is about 60,000 persons. There's only so much business that could take place here, but we also want persons to get into, as many persons as possible to get into entrepreneurship. Is your division looking at taking small businesses and growing them into accessing export markets so that they could have larger markets?
So I would say yes, most definitely. But I've spoken to the Minister of Planning as well. So we had the Minister of Finance on Thursday, and last week, Wednesday, we sat with the Minister of Planning. There are a lot of collaborations will be happening. I don't want to do too much overlapping here in Tobago. And central government has always given that support, especially for SMEs in terms of trade. So we intend to lean on the central government's strategies and initiatives. I do intend to have a trade unit, but not just yet. I'm a type of person that want to focus on getting a particular thing right and then move on, rather than doing a number of things at the same time. I do have a proposal on my desk for a trade unit. I have a committee that is dealing with the Tobago Development Fund. I've spoken to them about having the trade unit as a part of the fund. We're still thinking that through. But I intend to collaborate, and this government intends to collaborate with the central government, as we've always tried to do. But I think now more than ever, the mutual respect and that commitment to want to collaborate with us is there. So the answer to that is yes. Getting into export markets is number one for me. I've spoken to an entrepreneur whilst on my way to Trinidad. She actually said how goods are going into New York, into the New York market. I actually sent that entrepreneur also to Jamaica to get their products out there. So definitely to scale up businesses is one of my key mandates. It's something that I want to see. I don't only want to see you stay at one place at one level, but to grow. As a matter of fact, I don't think a grant for $25,000 can do much for an entrepreneur, and it's something I really want to move away from, right? But more than that, for me, I think technical assistance is needed important. More than, because building resilience is not only that support, that financial support, but really showing you how to be an entrepreneur and be risk taking and to be able to survive in an economy notwithstanding all the challenges. And they really need that technical support. So we are leaning on all the stakeholders and all the multilateral agencies to give us.
And I totally agree, because I know a lot of persons who were able to benefit from the grants in terms of the finances. And when you look at where their businesses are, you can't really see the benefits. You can't see rewards. So that is very, very critical, especially the way how things are going. Trends are changing and evolving on a daily basis. So to equip them with what is necessary to remain relevant, I think that is very, very important. And I just want to talk to our viewers this morning in terms of persons who are seeking grants to access this service when it becomes available, to make sure that you put yourself forward. In fact, Secretary, I don't know if this is in the plans, that it becomes policy that once you obtain a grant that you have to go through this training process.
It is policy right now, but I think I want to widen and broaden the types of training that we do. Not only bookkeeping and financial statements, but there are so many other things, marketing, actually pricing. I'm speaking with the chamber now. They have a Tobago Business Advisory Services unit, an advisory services unit that they do training on how to price and cost your product. You know how some people price? If your lime is $5, I'll send mine for $6. Rather than looking at a costing mechanism and showing them in simplified ways what's the mechanism to cost a product. You have direct labor, direct materials, you have your overheads, and you have to absorb that into each unit. That kind of thing, to help them to understand that. So that is where my mind is. So I'm letting the public know that there will be less financial assistance and more technical assistance coming up in the upcoming year.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming this morning, and I wish we had more time to continue the conversation, because I feel as if a lot of information was shared this morning in terms of especially understanding the shortfalls that we were carrying for all these years. We were doing these things in a sort of an archaic way, and now understanding that there's an easier way to do things, a way to streamline how the processes are done in terms of ensuring the efficiency there. So we really thank you for that. And as I mentioned before, we will be looking to see the impact and the change in terms of the wait time to ensure that we get the type of results that we've invested in, because it's an investment we're making, whether it's time or financially. It's an investment. So we must applaud you for that. Viewers, we are looking forward to budget. Remember, it's the 23rd of June, 10 a.m. The budget will be read, so you want to pay close attention to that. Secretary, in closing, is there any other information you want to share with our viewers this morning?
Yeah, I just need to, I felt that I needed to clear up I gave some focal areas, but that does not mean that other areas such as health and education are not important to us. But my budget will be based on stimulating the economy, accelerating growth. And there are some things that we will be focusing on. I'm saying that to say that the other areas will form part of the budget as well. But these focal areas, I think, can get us from one place to another, can accelerate, can elevate, can stimulate the economy. I am excited. I am actually hopeful. I feel a sense of promise. I feel a sense that with this new government, that Tobago will advance in its cause, in becoming the greatest little island on the planet. You just spoke about implementing these strategies and seeing the change. Change comes incrementally. I'm hoping that tomorrow we don't look forward to the changes in coming out of some of the strategies that we are going to implement, but work with us, Tobago, and we are doing the best that we can to make this island the greatest little island on the planet.
And before you go, a question just came to me in terms of when you were talking about the pillars, the core areas that you want to focus on for the budget, and you said your plan is to stimulate the economy. Can you tell us what is your primary goal and objective? Can we use that as your primary goal and objective, rather, in terms of your budget for this year?
I don't have one primary objective. I speak with entrepreneurs all the time. I speak with people who have a vested interest in how the economy is going, and obviously we know the economy is where it is because we don't have fiscal space and the amount of resources to to really stimulate it. I think one of our biggest problems is how we use the resources. I do agree with that. And I've spoken about it all. I tell my technical advisor that all the time. Any room that I go into, I speak with the executive. I think as Tobagonians, even as public officers, we have to become more serious in how we utilize the resources that we have. So that is one. So it's two things. It's how we utilize the resources. So we're talking about efficiency and the amount of resources that we have. So those are the two areas that I want to look at. And that's why I spoke about human capital development. I think that people want to know how to do this thing right, but they just don't have the avenue. They just don't know. So I am going to look at that human capital development for public servants, public service delivery, for entrepreneurs in the community. You would see more initiatives to help you, to make you a better citizen, right? To hone the skills that you currently have. So those are some of the things I'd like to see to stimulate the economy. And I want to tell Tobagonians, we have to be the change that we want to see. So at many times we are depending on the government a little too much. I think we have a part to play as citizens of Tobago in getting this place to the greatest little island on the planet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Secretary, thank you once again for joining us this morning and bringing that information to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Councillor Petal-Ann Roberts, Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy, as we spoke there about the budgetary process, the allocations, partnerships, collaborations, training, and all the things that will be implemented to ensure that Tobago progresses to that greatest little island on the planet that we are hoping for as we advance that cause. This is where we have to end the morning show, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, which is Good Morning Tobago. So stay with us, and as you stay, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.
To the world.
Celebrating anniversaries is important to fostering connections and acknowledging growth and shared experiences, as well as setting a foundation for future goals and aspirations. Around the region, they are known as the leading disaster management agency. Here in Tobago, we call them TIMA, and they recently celebrated their 27th anniversary. One activity was a health and wellness day.
We are accustomed doing stuff like this with every institution that require our service. Here today we are here to assist with the staff of TIMA in ensuring that they maintain their health and the importance of health, importance of knowing your numbers in terms of your blood pressure, your sugar, your weight, your BMI, to make sure it is in line with your height and your weight. The importance of checking your blood pressure is to ensure that you don't end up with stuff like a diagnosis with like heart attack or stroke. Also, that could also help us to send you also to the health center to do blood testing for stuff like your cholesterol and other blood work, so that we could determine if you are newly diagnosed or if you have been seen about your health. So we have the blood pressure testing, we have the sugar testing, we have the dietitians here who would do your weight, your BMI, and tell you how much body fat there is. We also have dental here to take care of the mouth, which is also important because of the bacteria and stuff that can cause different diseases to your organs and stuff like that.
TIMA workers share their love, experiences, and appreciation for their job.
Today for the staff, we are having a health and wellness program to commemorate our 27th year anniversary here at TIMA.
I am the GIS specialist at TIMA, so that's a Geographic Information System person. We deal with mapping as well as evacuation routes, evacuation maps, data elevation models, risk assessments, etc. I'm also attached to the planning department, so we do a lot of analysis as well as gap analysis as well as reports. So we basically are the brains somewhat of the organization. For me, my time here during this period would have been very great for me. Would have been able to respond to the oil spill as well as Tropical Storm Karen as well as other emergencies. This would have given you a lot of knowledge as well as wisdom in terms of how natural disasters actually operate, because reading about it is one thing, but actually being able to assist persons as well as to respond to it is something different. So it comes like you learn the theory and then have to do the practical aspect of it. Life here is really great. It's a family environment. Yes, we may have our disagreements, but it's a high pressure environment, but we always have the ability to bounce back from or whatever would have impacted us, and that shows a lot of resilience within the organization. So cheers to 27 years.
TIMA's mission is to coordinate a network of agencies and individuals within the island of Tobago to direct their efforts to maximize preservation of life and the protection of the property in times of disaster.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I am your host, Chanel Felix, and whenever you see me sitting here, it's because we're about to have those conversations that you want to have while I ask those questions that you want asked. But before we get into this morning's interesting topics and conversations, let's have our news in 90 seconds. Public Utilities Minister Barry Paterrat has accused the PNM of abusing the CPEP program for political gain, awarding 360 contracts without cabinet approval ahead of the 2025 general elections. He claimed that these awards worth hundreds of millions were linked to party loyalty and used for political patronage. Paterrat also alleged that $3.5 million in payouts were made to the relative of a former PNM minister and promised more revelations during the upcoming budget mid-year review. Additionally, amid rising tensions between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has called for calm, urging both nations to resolve issues peacefully within international law. The dispute escalated after Venezuela accused a Trinidad and Tobagonian national of links to terrorism, prompting Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar to warn that any illegal Venezuelan entry could be faced with deadly force. Gonsalves warned against inflammatory rhetoric and foreign interference, stressing regional unity and diplomacy. Security forces in Trinidad and Tobago remain alert as officials seek clarity through continued communication and dialogue. And finally, with growing controversy, President Donald Trump's latest travel ban has ignited debate over immigration policy and national security. Set to take effect today, the ban restricts travel to the U.S. for 12 predominantly African and Middle Eastern countries, while tightening visa control for 8 others. It targets applications without valid visas and cites concerns over terrorism, visa overstays, and poor vetting systems. Critics argue the policy prompts division rather than safety. While previous issued visas remain valid, many immigrants and aid groups have condemned the move and call it unjustifiable and harmful to vulnerable communities. And that was our news in 90 seconds. This morning, we are having an interesting conversation. We are talking about the role of the senator as we have a newly minted PNM senator in the Senate in the person of Senator Melanie Roberts Rajman. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Miss Felix. Good morning to all of Tobago.
Right. I mean, and this is the first time you're having any public appearance since you have been appointed as opposition senator.
Yes, this is the very first appearance. I thought it was important as well to have the appearance be with a Tobagonian media house at first. I have been approached by a few nationally, but I wanted the opportunity to at least speak at home first.
Right, and we truly appreciate it here at Tobago Updates. Now, you know, when we talk about senators in the Senate, you often hear persons saying that the role of a senator is really to push the agenda of their party. What do you see your individual and collective responsibility as being in the Senate?
Definitely. I think that that might be a misconception. Let me start with that. I think that the role of a senator tends to be a bit more technical. You have to take a look at the legislation. You have to have a closer look at the issues. And while maybe in the House you might see a bit more banter, and I feel like in the Senate you tend to really have the technical expertise that's required. You have your independent senators sitting there as well, making contributions. So I think generally that's the role. I think it's a bit more nuanced for a Tobago senator, just because you're not only dealing with matters of on a national level, but you're also dealing and bringing to the forefront issues that affect us here in Tobago. I mean, while we're one nation, of course, we have matters here that are very unique to us, and even things that happen on a national stage, it might tend to affect us a bit differently here in Tobago. So I see my role as being very aware of what's happening in Tobago, being very aware of what the Tobagonian population needs, and then bringing the Tobagonian angle.
Right. And you are quite a technical individual in that you did attend the Harvard University, you did studies there, and, you know, you have worked on building yourself, building your skill, and, you know, improving your offering. Do you feel like politics has had a negative impact on all that hard work and financial investment that you've made on yourself over the years?
Yeah.
I mean, even before this appointment as senator.
I think it's a very good question, Chanel. I wouldn't say it has had a negative impact, but I think that politics has become so polarized, especially within our very small Tobago space, that a lot of times administrations, one way or the other, are forced to sort of box out people with the technical capacity in order to maybe appease their support base, because people are so polarized, because people are always at each other's necks. It's become that way. So I wouldn't say necessarily a negative impact, but I think sometimes it does stymie your ability to make contributions. That being said, I think it's always a person's, especially if you really care about society, if you really care about the island's development, to still find ways that you can make your contribution, even if that's outside of the political arena.
Right. And what about the young persons looking on that said, okay, I saw Melanie go to the best schools, you know, do all this work on herself to develop herself, and then not being embraced or appreciated for her ability to contribute. Why would I want to get into politics?
Right. I mean, politics is people, right? And as I would have mentioned, there's different ways to get involved. So I would say still get involved, still, you know, be a political activist, still make your voice heard. You don't necessarily have to be a part of the administration that's in power. Of course, a key role of someone who's in the opposition, whether formally or informally, so is also to hold the administration to account, to also ventilate the issues, to bring the issues to the forefront, and to also bring a different viewpoint. So I still think that those young people, they have the opportunity to make their voices heard, to still offer their technical expertise, their education.
Right. And what about the persons who say that they do not believe that politics truly lends itself to critical thinking? Because a lot of the times when you're a part of a political organization, you may feel strongly about a particular topic that goes opposite to what your party's agenda and mandate might be. A lot of times persons suppress their professional ability, their morale, and their own opinions about particular topics just because they understand that it's so easy to become blackballed in politics just for saying the right thing at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
What I would say to that is you have to be true to yourself. You have to stand firm in your convictions. I think one of the things that the public would have seen with me, and one of the things that I would hold myself to, is the fact that throughout my career, if you want to call it that, I've always kind of been I don't want to say an independent voice in terms of independent in a political way, but I've always had my own voice, and I've always spoken out either for or against, or shared my viewpoint on a matter. I think also that in Tobago, even though we have two major political parties, I think that Tobago is so small and it's such a homogeneous society that the issues we have, we all agree on the issues that we have. There's no difference, there's no opposition with regards to the issues that we face. We know we have economic development is an issue on the island, the rising instances of crime and criminal activity, that's an issue on the island, food sustainability, that's an issue. So I don't think that we differ that much with regards to the issues affecting Tobago. I think where we might differ is in our approach. How do we deal with it, and what do we give priority to? So I still think there's room for, no matter where on the political divide you stand, to still speak to the issues.
Right. What would be your key priority in this position that you now sit in?
I mean, of course, it would be subject to the legislative agenda that's brought forward, and we're still waiting to have a look at that. But as I would have mentioned, crime. We have increasing criminal activity on the island of Tobago, and I've always said that that's something that we cannot allow to get out of hand. We wouldn't be able to survive it. So that's definitely something that I am looking very closely at, and I hope. And it seems like it will be on the legislative agenda. Right. So that's something that I'm looking at very closely. I think economic development, sustainable development on the island. We're kind of in an uncertain time, if you want to call it that. We see what's happening in the energy sector. And I think Tobago needs to really give serious thought and really look closely on how we sort of sustain ourselves here, how we diversify our economy, how we build ourselves here on the island. So that's something I'm also looking at.
Right. You spoke about crime and criminality, and recently we heard from the Prime Minister that they are taking a look at stand your ground laws. What are your perspectives on that?
I mean, well, and when I say we, collectively, I think the party, if you want to call it that, we would have already sort of shared very nationally, very openly, what our viewpoint is on that. We intend to have the research, the data, and of course, public consultation guide our approach to that. It's not completely ruled out. Of course, we have to take into account the different nuances, what our society looks like, how we interact. You know, there's just so much we need to look at to see if that is something that can work here. And we also need to look at the implications of introducing that sort of legislation here. So it's not ruled out. We just need to look at the information that's available.
A lot of persons were, assuming that possibly when looking at the Tobago representative that may have been appointed in the Senate, that we would have maybe seen a Shamfa Kujo or one of the, the previous representatives. Were you shocked at all when you received the call that you were being considered for that senatorial appointment?
It was definitely a surprise. It was a welcome surprise. It's something that wasn't taken lightly by myself. When I received the call, it was something I had to give serious thought to. I've always been interested in politics. I've always been interested in getting involved on a large scale. So I'm definitely up to task. As I said, it would have been surprising, but a very pleasant surprise.
Excellent. And even as you look on at your colleagues and what the agenda is moving forward within the PNM to, as they say, prepare for governance again, do you see yourself moving to other roles, possibly, putting yourself out there to be elected?
Right. I think it's very early days.
Okay.
My priority right now is understanding this role, growing in this role, and being able to perform very, very well in this role. For me, the success in this role would be measured by really being able to agitate and bring about impactful change for Tobago in particular. So I feel like until I have accomplished that, I'm not looking anywhere else right now, just right here.
How do you deal with persons possibly questioning your loyalty and your alignment to the People's National Movement, specifically seeing that you previously ran on a PDP card?
Right.
You were one of the representatives that went up for the PDP in one of those THA elections.
Let me say this. My loyalty is to Tobago, first and foremost, to our island and the island's development. Persons moving across the floor is not something that's new to us. Our current Chief Secretary, who is also the political leader of the TPP, he was once a registered member of the People's National Movement. He would have made his contributions there within his constituency. This is not something that's new to us. We see it happening all the time. People move across. I think that we need to move away from the mindset where you need to be stuck in one place. As I would have mentioned before, especially in the Tobago space, the issues are all the same. Where we might vary or where we may dispute is the approach or how we prioritize them. So I think that being said, it is normal to see people move. I do own my previous involvements. The goal and the intent has always been to get involved in politics, especially on the Tobago level. I've done my time. I've moved away from the PDP since 2017, and I have been making my contributions in several ways to the People's National Movement and more so to Tobago's development.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we'll be back with much more on this topic and conversation. See you soon.
Hair goals, we've got them. At S&R Hair Fantasy, we provide a wide variety of quality hair, the latest hair accessories, adult toys, skin lightening products, female underwear, and much more under one roof. Check us out on Shelbourne Street in Plymouth or call us at 317-0808. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. S&R Hair Fantasy for queens who know exactly what they want.
When the game is on, you don't want to miss the best moments. With AMPLIA TV, you can enjoy our ultimate sports package and watch your favorite games on the go. Stay connected and informed with sports news, scores, and stats with AMPLIA's fastest internet speeds. Up to 1 gigabyte fiber internet, you can stream riveting football action, cricket, NBA games, and much more. With AMPLIA, it's game on. Visit amplia.co.tt or call 800-4663. AMPLIA. Do more, live more.
Quartz is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Quartz Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Quartz Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
Do you think you know Premier League or Champions League football? What about international cricket or the IPL and CPL? How about NBA basketball? Well, now you can put your skills to work to earn some extra cash by betting on the games with TT Bet Arena. Simply go to our website, choose a sport you want to bet on, find the games, and place your bets. And with your computer or mobile device, you can bet from anywhere. Just go to ttbetarena.com, sign up for a free account, make a deposit, and start betting. It's that simple. You can even qualify for our $2,000 sign-up bonus. We also have horse racing, plus live casino games where you can bet using TT dollars. And check our new Tobago location at 7B Milford Road, Crown Point. For more info, call or WhatsApp 494-0634. TT Bet Arena, the #1 sports betting company in Trinidad and Tobago.
Tobago. This Labor Day, June 19th, API Music and Timeless Vibes Promotions kicks off Tobago Jazz Music and Golf Weekend 2025 with Plymouth Love, featuring Jazz at Dawn, 6:30 a.m. till noon, with Franz Job, Prince Unique, and much more. Then kicking it old school, 6 p.m. to midnight, featuring Oscar B, Andrea J. Donowa, Joe Archer, and a very special guest, K. Alan Maloney, all at Plymouth Tennis Court Car Park. This entire celebration is in support of K's medical expenses. Just $200 per event, or experience both events for only $300. Tickets are available at Barcode, Nanandes Bar, and Island E-Tickets. Events supported by Frankie Tours, Bermuda's Biscuits, Tobago Updates, Street 91.9, Radio Toco, Stone Tower Studio, Eye for Design, and Click. Plymouth Love, one community, sunrise to sunset.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I have been chatting with Senator Melanie Roberts Rajman. Good morning and welcome back. There seem to have been some rumbling in the PNM Tobago camp about your appointment. Will you, and you know, we have this idea about how Tobagonians are, right? We know our people. Were you in any way surprised about persons who should be supportive and happy for you being placed, you know, in a position to grow, to develop, to expand your capacity, having a negative view about it? Were you surprised about that, and how have you been dealing with that?
Right. Well, Chanel, as you would have said, we know how all people are. So not really a surprise. Everything happened really quickly. And I tend to be a very focused person. So my mind immediately just sort of went to the role and what it means and what I need to do to get prepared. So that's where I placed my focus. As I said, it wasn't surprising. I think too, in a weird way, it signals the health of our democracy within and without the party. It means that you have people who are interested still. It means that people are passionate and they want to have a say, or at least make a contribution as well. So it's not necessarily a negative thing to have the buzz and have the excitement around the appointment. So no negative impact or feelings. What I have been doing over the last couple of weeks, in addition to formally preparing for the appointment or preparing for the role, would have been to just reach out to people, have the conversations, form the connections that need to be formed in order to make sure that we could all do this thing properly.
Right. And, you know, one of the persons that were a bit upset with your appointment, by chance, would that have been the political leader of the Tobago PNM Council?
Not that I'm aware of at all. We have been in communication. We have a long history of communication. We go back to maybe 2018. We've always bounced ideas off of each other. We've always communicated on matters of policy. We've always tapped into each other's expertise. And we have spoken as recently as Saturday. We were in an event together, and we would have been discussing party matters and Tobago matters. So I'm not aware of that being an issue.
All right. Okay, well, you did say economic diversification and sustainability is a huge part of your agenda as Senator. How do you see yourself contributing to that, particularly with this role?
All right, definitely. So there's a few mechanisms available, right? As I said, we look at the legislative agenda, see what's being brought, based on what is being brought, also try to advocate for the Tobago angle if that's missing. So by means of amendments, by means of debates, try to look at that angle. In terms of what's not being brought, raise questions in the Senate, request disclosure of information in the Senate. There's also moving motions in the Senate to raise issues that are important to Tobago as well. So there's a bunch of mechanisms that's available. And then, of course, on private members' day, the Senate members are in the opposition or independent senators have the ability to also bring their own bills for debate.
Right. And you are no stranger to, negative feedback. But you said in a recent interview that you will allow your work to speak for itself. What does that truly mean for you as it pertains to you really showing up for Tobago?
Right. So you know how we have this saying in Tobago, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? So I think what it means is, as I would have mentioned before, really kind of being on the ground, having the conversations across the aisle with everybody, kind of hearing and knowing what the issues are for Tobagoans, and then being able to advocate that to ensure that Tobago's best interests are served on the national level as well. So where there's a gap, identifying that gap and advocating for how that gap needs to be filled to satisfy the needs of Tobagoans, or where there's something that touches on Tobago, having a critical look at it to make sure that it touches on us in the way that we want it to touch on, and if not, agitating for some sort of amendment to that.
Right. Do you have any other plans for engagement with persons in Tobago? Outside of your role in the Senate, you said that you've been having those conversations with the leader of the PNM Tobago Council. What are some of your plans to continue that engagement with the party membership and some of the young persons that are around, specifically as it pertains to that upcoming THA election?
Okay, Chanel, let's see where we're trying to go with this. So in terms of plans, the conversations with the leadership of the party will continue. The conversations with committees and some committees throughout the party, that will continue. But also broader Tobago conversations as well. As I would have mentioned, we're not far apart on the issues that affect Tobago. So this doesn't have to be limited to just listening to what one party says. It also means having dialogue and opening the opportunity for dialogue with persons on the other side as well. It means having the dialogue with persons on the ground who might not be specifically politically affiliated or within the political arena. It means just having ear to the ground, having an open door, allowing people to reach out, being involved in the community as well, hearing what people are saying as well.
Right, and even as it pertains to moving forward into that THA election, although your focus at the moment is at the central government level with your role as senator, what key lessons do you think the People's National Movement needs to take away from that last general election moving into the THA election?
I think the PNM has already started to see what the takeaways are and has already started to address those. Of course, you see, the thing is this: if we want to talk from a strictly political or political science perspective, incumbency is always, especially extended incumbency, tends to be a disadvantage of sorts. People have a longer time to measure your performance. They get comfortable with you. They get comfortable. And that comfort eventually shifts to discomfort or being fed up with one party in power, right? That's just what democracies do. People vote parties in and then they vote you out, kind of thing. So I think that the party on a whole has been looking at its shortcoming. It has been listening to what members and non-members, just what Tobagoans have been saying, and they have been working on that rebuilding, that refocusing. I think we've been seeing it happening. There's been a bunch of meetings happening throughout Tobago, maybe about 21 meetings in different constituencies where members and even non-members, there have been people just from the communities coming out to those meetings to share their concerns about where they thought the party was not meeting the needs of Tobagoans anymore.
Okay. What type of political or toxic political cultures do you think need to be shifted within the party and or within the political scene on a whole as it pertains to politics in Tobago?
I would address it from politics on a whole in Tobago. One of the things that I think we need to shift away from is we seem to have lost the personal touch that comes with politics. Politics is people, and politics means that you directly impact the lives of people in a negative or a positive way. And there has been this thing where we feel that we have to touch people either, negatively without really kind of thinking about the impact that it has on people's lives, livelihoods, their families, and just how they're able to function in a small space like Tobago. So I think that's one of the things we have to move away from. I think one of the other things is the pressures that we sometimes place on our leaders to make certain decisions because we have these venoms and these vendettas. Sometimes we place our leaders in positions where they have to make difficult decisions that they themselves might not necessarily want to make, but because they're trying to appease the party base. So I think we need to move away from that. I think another thing is to start seeing things more holistically. Look at policies, look at processes, look at decisions on a more local or national level as opposed to how does it just impact me alone, but see what it does to the island on a whole. I think that's something that we also need to kind of start focusing on.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Is there anything that you want to say to our audience looking on this morning before we end our conversation?
Yeah, definitely. What I would say is this. Tobago is in a unique place right now. The issues all align. We all agree on what the issues are. I think that what we need to start doing is having a all hands on deck approach to governance and to championing our cause. The doors are open. And when I say we're in a unique position, we have a PNM opposition senator there. Then we have 2 TPP MPs as well in the House. I think we just all need to band together. We need to get on board. Despite what our differences might be in the local space, especially as pertains to the upcoming THA election, I think we need to band together to ensure that we mind in Tobago business on a national level as well.
Excellent. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Guys, we want to thank you so much for sticking with us this morning. We're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back with much more conversation after this. Again, thank you so much to our Senator Melanie Roberts Rajman for giving us your time here this morning and allowing the people to get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you so much, Ms.
So we'll take a quick break right here. See you soon.
Tobago, this is your chance to lock in the brunch experience of the summer. Sun up.
Real bad girl get nasty.
The brunch inclusive edition, the ultimate party in the East, where vibrant flavors, refreshing cocktails, and electrifying vibes collide. It's happening on Saturday, July 5th from 3 p.m. at Deltec Compound, Argyle. Bring your coolers, bring your crew, and brunch, sip, and vibe in style. This is the flavorful escape you've been waiting for. Grab your tickets now at Barcode, Pablo Supermarket, Lost Restaurant and Lounge, Deltec Compound, and committee members. Sun up! It's more than a brunch, it's an experience.
So guys, there are some new developments in housing in Tobago. So it's goat racing time. This is 116, the show that keeps you in the know with all things Tobago House of Assembly. Each week, 116 delivers a fun and engaging overview of the latest developments, achievements, activities, and events of our dynamic assembly. So join me. Let's dive into the Tobago House of Assembly's Week in Review right here on 116.
Welcome to Tobago Glass Supplies, where innovation meets excellence and service reigns supreme.
Well, I want a proper window for me house, yeah? I want no shake thing in my place.
Our commitment is simple: to provide high-quality, innovative aluminum, vinyl, and glass solutions for both commercial and residential spaces.
We get one wall on the side and we get one hole. you can put a window there, invent something, a window for put there.
At TGSL, we don't just meet needs, we exceed expectations. Our range includes the finest aluminum cladding options, setting new standards in durability and style.
Well, me meet ya. Me don't know who I'm talking to, but I cousin Tufina tell me for call all you go get proper thing for put that. Me don't know.
Driven by our passion to elevate, we aim to be the leading supplier in the Caribbean market while retaining our identity as a family-owned business.
Driven? No, I ain't driving. I get a bus ticket. One of me pick me them go drop me down there. Must bring me down there. Russo Trace Springer down by the place down there.
Because at Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, it's not just about products, it's about relationships. It's about you.
It's all about me? Who's your family? You know Edna and Dorka and them, you know them, but you resemble them Edward boy and them Edward people them you.
Tobago Glass Supplies, Russo Trace Spring Garden, telephone number 639-6266. Innovation, quality, service. That's Tobago Glass Supplies Limited.
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, this morning we continue our conversations, and I have the privilege of sitting in studio with Sergeant Emmanuel York. Good morning, and welcome to Tobago Updates.
Good morning, Chanel. Good morning to all the viewers.
Right, and we are in that post-examination graduation season where a lot of young persons are celebrating that school is closing, they're closing one chapter and getting into a next, but this also requires a certain level of safety, security, and oversight. From a general perspective, tell us about some of the safety concerns that often arise during this time.
Right, when you're cooking using the pressure cooker, right, you have that pressure built up in that pressure cooker. This is the same thing that these students have, these young people, I should say now. This is the same thing that they have. And at the end of exam, there's two pivotal things that they look at. Exam is finished, and I am now an adult. I could make decisions for myself. And this could lead them to doing things that could endanger them, right? One of the things that they tend to get into a lot is alcohol, right? And I don't know for what reason the drink of choice that I realize now is punching and Red Bull.
And Rude Boy.
And Rude Boy, yes, right? And those two are on two different sides of the spectrum. One is a depressant and one is a stimulant. So imagine you putting these things together and trying to get the battlefield that they would be fighting would be your body, right? And these young people, this is what they go into. And a lot of them don't know what their alcohol tolerance is. So they will just go out and they'll drink and they'll have a good time because I don't have that burden on me anymore, right? So we would want them to, the children as well as the parents, to speak to the children in relation to this level of responsibility that they have. Because yes, exam is finished, but there's a life ahead of exam, right? You now have to make decisions about your entire life. And you don't want to lose that by just making what we may call a foolish decision now, right? When we look at the area outside now, beside the alcohol, there are a lot of other things that they tend to get into. For example, marijuana. Marijuana has now been decriminalized. Mm-hmm. So at the age of 18, you can legally smoke marijuana, not on the streets, mind you, right, at your home. So they would want to partake in these things, right? And there are some other drugs that are out there. They call them party drugs. You have the LSD, you have the Molly, right? You have ecstasy, right? These are party drugs that they go there, just have fun and take them to their detriment.
Right. And what happens as well, you see, after the graduation party, that's not enough. They're looking for what's happening after the after party.
Yeah.
So you find a lot of them will go down to that Crown Point area after the graduation party is finished, because obviously there's no alcohol being presented at the graduation itself.
Yes.
So they're looking for the party after that. Would there be increased police patrols in that area to that Crown Point stretch there at the bars? And when you see those children come out in their graduation attire, would they be sent home?
Right. Now, to say sending them home, that we may not have that level of authority, because when you look at some of these, we can't call them children, and young persons. Some of these young persons are 18 years old.
Well, most of them are like 16 to 18.
Right. And once they are enjoying themselves in a proper manner, we wouldn't really, but if we realize that, right, even before we go there, the bars are not supposed to serve alcoholic beverages to a person who is under the age of 18. That is against the law. That is something for which the bars could be penalized, right? So at that point, we would definitely be dealing with the bars in relation to that, right? In the Crown Point area, knowing that that is the area that most people gravitated to have fun, right? The bar owners will be sensitized as to the sale of alcohol to minors, especially during this time where persons just come out to have fun and release the pressure that they're under.
So would bartenders then, just like, sometimes I saw this happening a lot in the US. You go to a bar, even at my age, I feel like I look like I'm over 18, and they still ask, can we see your ID? So would bartenders be prompted to ask persons for their ID if they suspect that that person might be underage?
We would advise them to, right? Now, we cannot go in and enforce things in the bar like that, but we could advise them that persons coming in, you need to have somebody check in to ensure that these persons are adults. They are above the age of 18 before they enter to even purchase alcoholic beverages.
Excellent. And, for you, what role do you think parents have to play, particularly as it pertains to this? Are you recommending that parents pick these children up after the graduation dinner and take them directly home? Or what are your recommendations as it pertains to parents?
Right. The first thing that the parents need to do is to speak to the children, right? They need to have a conversation with them about behaviors, right? About, I must even say friends, because we know we'll get into the peer pressure, right? Where you would find that, yes, mommy may be coming to pick me up, but my friends are going to Lime. So you know what? I'm going to go down with them. So when mommy comes, we end up with a missing persons report because mommy can't find her child who was at the graduation, but they just bowed to peer pressure and went down. So they need to have that conversation with the children in relation to that sort of behavior. And yes, I would advise, especially if you know your child is under the age of 18, to pick them up after the graduation is done, to pick them up, or to have some responsible person going to pick up those children. Now, we know that after that graduation and they go to Lime, you may find that they start drinking and so on. And this is where, especially for the young ladies, now there's this drug called ketamine, right? It's basically called a date rape drug, right? And somebody could just simply slip it in the drink, and you, unknown to you, and you consume. it renders you unconscious. You lose muscle functions, right? And you're at the mercy of whoever placed that in your drink. So what I would advise, even for the persons who are above the age of 18, right? Be careful of the drinks you take and who you take a drink from. If somebody brings something for you to drink, ensure it is closed. If you're going to the bar to buy a drink, you go with them to see what is being placed. Because sometimes these persons would have, would be friends with the barman, and he would do it for them. So you have to be also careful out there when you're going to Lime.
Totally understood. And what about potential or current partnerships with the Division of Education and schools to promote safe celebration during this time?
Right. The community police will be going to schools. They have been going to schools throughout the time, but they will embark on this drive to ensure that the schools speak to the young persons in relation to these types of behaviors and being safe on the outside there after the graduation celebration is over.
Right. And are you prompting members of the public to report any type of activity that may be against the law that they are seeing these students engaging in? For instance, if they see them after graduation somewhere out smoking weed, drinking alcohol, knowing that they are underage, are you advising the public to make a report on these instances?
Well, we all know that the mantra of the police service for a long while now is you see something, say something.
Right.
And we would advise the members of the public, if you see this type of behavior taking place, contact the police station. Call 999, 555. In Tobago, we have 211. Make a call to these numbers. Let somebody know what is happening and have that being dealt with almost immediately.
Right. And how do parents strike a balance between giving a well-performing student that reward, and that freedom and allowing them to also be safe? Is it that they should be looking at, having chaperones around when they're out, if they are allowing them to go? What do you recommend?
I would recommend the chaperones for them. Now, all the parents, all the young people may not be able to attend, but one responsible adult could maybe look over a group of young people to ensure that they enjoy themselves, but they enjoy themselves safely, right? Along with, as I said before, speak to the young people, have that conversation with them, let them know that there is a life ahead. You don't want that all the hard work that you did while you were at school. You worked hard at school, so you make your achievements in your passes and so on, all that to go down the drain because you made one silly decision now to overdrink, and the person who is carrying you home, he was drinking also, and we have a serious accident, right? Sometimes when we have these serious accidents, you may not die, but the situation you are left in may be even worse than that.
Understood. And we want to thank you so much for coming this morning and, giving us this level of insight. Is there anything else that the TTPS is, wants to instruct students, teachers, parents during this time?
We would like to tell the students to be careful on the outside, right? Everything, life would go on. Life does not end now that school has ended. It is just the end of one chapter and another chapter is going to begin, right? You have your entire life ahead of you. Do not make decisions now that will harm the rest of your life. Be careful as to what you do outside there. Be also careful. We cannot implore them as much, but be careful, be very, very careful on the outside.
And be vigilant.
Exactly.
Right? And always aware of your surroundings.
Of your surroundings, yes.
Right? We want to thank you so much, Sergeant Ewok, for your time this morning. And it's so important for young persons to understand that it's not that we don't want you to have fun and we don't want you to celebrate, but we want you to have a long, sustained life where you'd be able to have more fun in the future. Right, so we are looking out for your safety as it pertains to your travel, that you don't consume alcohol and any illegal or explicit drugs during this time, so that you remain safe, you remain competent, that you are able to move on to the next stage of your life successfully. A lot of you are interested in going off to college and you want to do that safely. You don't want a situation where you become paralyzed before you can even really go off to have the type of fun that is really worthwhile, right? And to make a difference and make the type of change that your parents want to see you make. And so parents, we know a lot of times, sometimes it's so hard on you and you would have done so much work to get your child to this place, and to see them do good in their exams and their study, you are so proud and you want to repay them by giving them freedom. But sometimes that freedom also needs to come with a certain level of responsibility and oversight.
The freedom needs to be measured.
Excellent.
Not give them all the freedom one time. It must be measured and given incrementally. Yes.
And for some parents, they say, well, I didn't graduate high school, and look, he is graduating with, all his passes, let him free up himself. But there has to still be a certain measure of, yes, I am proud of you, you have done good. Right, you can be rewarded, but to a certain extent, right? And even those parents who, want to give the children the outfits and all of the things that they want, you can only do as much as you can do, and you can do no more than that. And don't allow any child to pressure you into trying to get things that you cannot afford, right? I'll have to do anything illegal or against your own morals to get. But guys, we want to thank you so much for being with us this morning. Thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing and continue to do to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. Again, I am Chanel Felix, and I've been sitting with Sergeant York from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and we have been talking about, safety and security post-examination as it pertains to graduation parties, and dinners. So again, we want to thank you and say have a great day.